My company is Wyoming Machine. We are actually not located in Wyoming. We're in Minnesota. We are high mix, low volume job shop. Wyoming Machine is 52 this year, and my sister and I are second generation owners that have been there for 32. We started getting involved with our community. Once we started doing that, we just really came into our own, and it was like, we're just going to run this and do what we think is right, not what everybody else is doing.
This episode is sponsored by Fulcrum. Most fab shops are running on too few people, too many spreadsheets, and not enough hours in the day. Fulcrum fixes that. It's a platform built for fabrication that uses AI to automate the workflows eating up your team's time. Scheduling, tracking, quoting, quality, so your people can focus on getting parts out the door. See what it looks like at fulcrumpro.com. And now, back to the episode.
Hello, welcome to the Fabricator Podcast. I'm Dan Davis with the Fabricator Magazine.
I'm Lincoln Bruner with the Fabricator and the Tube and Pipe Journal.
We're here in Clearwater Beach, Florida for the FMA annual meeting, and we're going to have a discussion with Traci Tapani of Wyoming Machine, located in Stacy, Minnesota, just north of St. Paul, Minnesota. Lori's been a long-time attendee of the FMA annual meeting, and actually she's pretty much been active almost the entire time I've been a part of FMA, which is kind of going on 23 years. And our conversation is really nice because I don't know if I've had that in-depth of a chat with her before.
And now today was finally the day.
And a lot of territory covered, I think.
Yeah, well, she's a very engaged, community-minded business owner, right? So she's not only, wanting to run the very best shop that she can with her sister Traci, but she's also very cognizant of the needs of the community groups, and especially working with groups like Minnesota Rise, with differently abled individuals who are, coming in, doing sort of maintenance work, but then who might want to work their way up the chain and do some better work. So it's a kind of a refreshing conversation to have.
Yeah, she made the comment that after she and her sister took over for her father, that they realized a few years into the business they wanted to run it the way they wanted to run it.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what any individual business owner wants to do. So
yeah.
Well, and they kind of put the trust in them, and he just kind of like slowly ghosted to do his personal things in Belize.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
literally disappeared.
Yeah. Well, and it's that's kind of the ideal situation, really. You've got a really capable business owner who said, look, I know you guys are capable. I raised you right, so you go do it the way you want to do it. I'm not going to interfere.
I think there's a lot of lessons you hear about businesses not succeeding, the handoff from one generation to the next.
Right.
And you hear a lot of reasons why it can work, but you have to have, as you described, the trust and the space.
Yeah. And there's a reason why that they're involved in the U.S. Chamber of Commerce as well, advocating for small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And it's real impressive.
Yeah, literally. I mean, that's just scratching the surface of this conversation. So I think you'll enjoy it. Yeah. Sit back, grab a nice brew, invite the neighbors over, and enjoy this episode. Thank you.
Stay informed, stay competitive, and stay connected to the industry with the Fabricator Magazine. Every issue covers the latest processes, equipment, and best practices in metal fabrication, plus perspectives from people who are solving real problems on the shop floor every day. Join thousands of subscribers and sign up for The Fabricator for free at thefabricator.com.
Welcome back to the Fabricator Podcast. Thanks for joining us today, Lori. We were chatting before we started about your business and some of the interesting things you do in terms of workforce. And before we get into it, let's just have an introduction to yourself and your business, and how did you end up in metal fab?
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. My company is Wyoming Machine. We are actually not located in Wyoming. We're in Minnesota, north of St. Paul, about 30 miles. Mm-hmm. Wyoming Machine is 52 this year,
and
my sister and I are second generation owners that have been there for 32. Wow. So We've got a really close family, so we joined the business in a very interesting way. Our father was doing succession planning in the 90s and, asked his advisors were talking to him, asking what kind of succession he wanted to have. Do you want to sell your company? Do you have someone to buy it internally? What do you want to do? And he very quickly said, I think it would be great if my girls ran the company.
Whoa.
And
Wow. Was that a surprise to you?
a very big surprise. And so just to clarify, my sister Tracy and I have owned the company for that long.
Wow.
We do have another sister as well, but because Tracy and I were so close in age, we kind of were a unit called the girls. So Sherry and the girls. So interesting.
I will say this. I remember, I've been here for like a little over 20 years. I remember the early pictures of you. I think it was on the website with you and your dad with the Harleys.
Yes, we were in the Fabricator.
Yes.
And I will say my dad is a very stoic Finn Marine.
Right.
And when we said, Dad, we're going to do this photo shoot for the Fabricator, he was shocked. And he's not a camera, lights kind of a guy at all.
Very memorable photo, though.
He did say that would be the last photo that he'd be in.
Wow.
So when we got this opportunity, Tracy and I were in our careers. My background is in finance, so I was a CPA in public practice and then had gone on and was working at one of my clients. Tracy was in international trade and finance at Wells Fargo.
Wow.
She was one of the first women, actually the first woman that joined Wells Fargo's job enrichment training.
Wow.
They had a special program where she moved around all areas of the bank. So early 90s, we get invited to a meeting at a law office in the city, and we kind of thought it must have something to do with business, but weren't exactly sure. And when they, proposed the idea of us becoming the second generation owners of the company, we were like, okay. Our dad did not attend the meeting because he did not want us to feel pressure. He didn't want us to feel like, oh, if your dad wants you to do it, you have to do it. And we had great careers. So we took a little bit of time and then decided we wanted to do it. He told us that the company ran itself, so it was going to be easy. No.
Yeah. He lied to you.
He's the perfect salesman.
He was the perfect salesman. Yeah. So we took about 6 months to transfer out of the careers we had, join the company. It was a perfect dovetail for the backgrounds that we had because the company was implementing its first networked system.
Oh, wow.
So we were able to really help with the implementation and work with all the team members. If you can imagine, there was a lot of people in the early 90s on the shop floor that had never touched a computer.
Right.
So that was great. So we are high mix, low volume job shop.
Okay.
Very diverse industries. We have aerospace, defense, packaging equipment, a lot of industrial equipment that's used, instruments, navigational kind of things that get used in labs.
Like very precision type.
Very precision.
A lot of stainless. A lot of
Yes. And our material usage kind of ebbs and flows depending on the customers, the projects they're working on. So by customer, we have customers that are buying carbon products, aluminum, and stainless.
Wow.
Yeah. So a key phrase when you were providing us a little bit of background, your sister entered a program in the 90s that had never seen a woman be a part of it. That to me is just like, now I realize that because I'm old now. But nonetheless, you're about to enter a manufacturing setting where, you just described kind of the environment where they're not really computers, but heavily, I assume, male at the time, in an industry outside that in terms of customers where they're probably not used to dealing with women. How was that transition early on? Was it a big deal?
It was kind of a big deal. So in our family, we are like solid girls. So, I don't have any brothers.
Yeah.
I have a lot of cousins that are women as well. But my dad always treated us and let us know we could do anything. So, there really wasn't a lot of kids growing up at the time Trace and I were that their dad brought them a motorcycle when they were in kindergarten and first grade. So that was a little bit different. Joining the business what I will say is that internally, it was not a huge deal just because people were really happy. If the alternative would have been for my dad to sell the company
Right.
and to not know what was going to happen to it or happen to
Right.
them. So they were happy about it. But just getting into the industry, was a little bit odd. I will say, not necessarily from the customer perspective,
Okay.
but just
Good.
from, suppliers, people coming in from the outside, they were a little bit shocked.
Yeah.
I can remember someone came once for a local paper to write an article about something, and when the photographer came to the door, he's like, "Oh, when they told me I was, coming to photograph for the magazine or the newspaper, 2 women that own a sheet metal shop, I wasn't expecting it was going to be you." So he must have had a predetermined idea.
What was he expecting? Yeah, well, as the father of 3 daughters, I gotta hand it to your father for doing those things, because I think it's important for parents, especially of women, to make sure that they know, hey, I believe in you. This world's gonna make you feel like you're inadequate a lot of times, and or they're gonna try. So, but I'm interested in the whole dynamic between you and your sister being co-owners of the company. Have there been any hiccups in terms of sharing leadership, sharing responsibility for the company? Those things can happen. Is there anything that you had to work on sort of purposefully to make sure that things went smoothly?
So I mentioned to you that Trace and I are 13 months apart in age. So we
Right.
grew up, we shared a room. She wasn't going to go to college, but when I did and she came to visit me at the dorm one weekend, she suddenly decided that going to college was a good thing to do.
Yeah.
So we've always been really, really close, but we're very different.
Mhm.
So it's really, worked to our benefit in the
Cool.
business.
Cool.
So my background is finance. So I have sales, finance, administration. Tracy is in the shop. So she has
Oh, wow.
engineering, she has the production.
Cool.
And we've always had a mutual respect for each other. Do we agree on every single thing? Is our approach exactly the same? No, we're different. And I think it benefits the business.
Sure.
If you look at the Gallup Strengths Finder,
Yeah.
and you see like where your gifts and abilities lie. Tracy is, very strategic. I'm a, influencer, relationship builder type of person.
Mhm.
I know her background and strengths. She knows mine. So if we ever disagree, we have that mutual respect
Yeah.
where if somebody has to make the call, if it's buying a piece of equipment, Trace really wants it. She's done, her analysis of needing it. We've gone through everything that we go through when we buy a piece of equipment, but I say it's not the right time.
Mm.
She might be mad at me, but she understands and respects.
I'm guessing that has actually occurred.
That
but-
has occurred. You can feel it in my heart.
Yeah.
Yes. You know what? I will say.
I know the conversations that take place, and it's always the person who's watching the books who kind of weigh in a little bit more heavily when it's your sister.
Yes.
It's a
You
little-
remember the movie Monsters, Inc.?
Yes.
I used to have a little the office lady, the slug that was the office lady
yeah.
in the red Roz.
Roz.
I was Roz, so
Yeah. This
Sorry.
office is closed.
that's what's happened. I need your paperwork.
Yeah, Wazowski. Yeah, I'm curious about as the business has matured and grown. What are some of the things that you've had to navigate that you perhaps didn't foresee? Even though your dad owned the company, you grew up. What are some things that you had to say? Take a good long look in the mirror and say, "Okay, didn't see this coming, but we got to deal with it."
Yes, I think that we had been in the business a few years and had both come from careers where you worked in teams all the time, right? You had skill sets around solving problems and working together to make that happen. So one thing that comes to mind is just our vision that when we came in and we wanted to work on solving a problem, improve a process, that we could get a team of people together at the table and just do what we had always done, not recognizing that people in the shop didn't really have that skill set because it was more of an environment where you had a supervisor, you had a foreman. And so the actual people doing the work, just did the work.
Right.
No one asked them any questions. No one. And so it was very unique in the late 90s that we went through a process of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
Everyone in the company read it. We developed our guiding principles of how we were going to work together. And then also, as a whole company, worked on, the process of solving a problem. So rather than coming to the table, looking at a particular part we wanted to improve, and having one person say, guess what? I know what happened. Dan doesn't know what he's doing and he messed up. That's the answer right there. And it really...
Funny you should say that. No.
Yeah, it's actually quite accurate.
And, it really helped as a company, and people, it just elevated everybody. I mean, to have never participated in training and learning a skill set like that you can use anywhere.
Right.
They really appreciated it.
Did you see your entry into the company as being like a start over point almost? Not only with what you're describing, but you're bringing in computerization into the shop, and there's a lot of change. Sound like it was occurring in those early years.
So I think our dad was really very progressive.
Oh, okay.
The implementation was happening when we came, but the decision to go in that direction was already in the works. He also was very progressive. There were a lot of women working at Wyoming Machine, even when we first came.
Wow.
There's more now, but he was very, our shipping and logistics person is a woman, and there were just a lot of women in the company.
Yeah.
But what I will say is that when we came in, we had the approach that we just need to learn, focus on our team, right? And just take everything in and just try to blend in and fit in with the industry. And it was, a few years into that where we realized we're not probably going to look like everybody else in this industry or make decisions. And we started getting involved with our community and, the larger community, whether it was workforce, going out and speaking to kids, getting involved in our technical college. And, once we started doing that, we just really came into our own. And it was like, we're just going to run this and do what we think is right, not necessarily what everybody else is doing.
Right. So we've had a lot of conversation here at the FMA annual meeting, people discussing how, I don't want to call it a vocation, but their business is their opportunity to change the world locally, if not globally, when everyone's working together. And it seems like y'all felt that early on, that maybe this is the best way to approach us running this particular business.
Yes. And, even in the smallest way, our technical school that's closest to us is Pine Tech. And it's a community college now. It's one of the most successful MnSCU. They're growing, they're expanding, they're adding programs. But what was unique about them is they really partnered with the business community, especially manufacturing. They identified that there is amazing jobs for the people in this community in manufacturing, and people have lost sight that it's wonderful. And just with partnering, the businesses that have given their time, to give their input, to provide resources, to partner with the college, really helps. And it feels like once you get involved in one thing like that, it just grows exponentially.
Right.
Before you know it, somebody that has something to do with workforce, and there's been many workforce related things that we're involved in. We won a national leadership award, the small business in the whole United States, to win the WO Lawton Business Leadership Award
What was that
for
about?
workforce
Okay.
development.
Wow.
So all of the places that we participate to kind of strengthen the workforce.
You had mentioned Minnesota Rise and working with people with different abilities. Can you explain a little bit about what that's about, what your partnership has looked like
Yes.
with them, and how that's worked for you as a company, finding new people with new skills?
I think that we've been working with them for about 10 years now, but it started with them coming in, and they have job coaches for people, and they come in as a team and they can provide custodial services for you. And so, it takes an effort to know that you're going to have a group of people and they're going to be getting coached while they're working. But then it just grew into the coaches identifying certain individuals that had expressed an interest in doing possible production work. They were always, cleaning in the plant, and they would see the different jobs available. And then they would just come on. They would be coached. We would have to put in a little bit of effort, but it's been really rewarding and successful.
Cool.
At any point in time, we have at least 2 or 3 people that are working in a production capacity. We have someone in forming. She is amazing. She's absolutely amazing. Her attention to detail. She's kind. She enjoys working. Everybody in her department loves working with her.
That's cool.
And we have another person, Jesse, that works in metal finishing. And, over time, he, again, has an attention to detail. He knows the customers. He knows the requirements in terms of finishing. So it's been really great.
That's really
Especially
cool.
to establish some independence in a way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For them to, have a job, they're getting paid a wage.
Right.
When it's a Christmas bonus or whatever, they're, the same as everybody else. And so they feel really proud.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What do you say to someone you're sharing the story with, maybe another business owner in the fab arena? They say, "What's the ROI for you?" Is that too? I mean, maybe, obviously the answer could be it doesn't matter, but I'm gonna let you kind of answer that.
I think I would expand my calculation of ROI, and I'm an accountant, so
Yeah, there you go.
that.
You have the table.
Because is it less expensive financially to have a crew like that as opposed to hiring somebody else to do it? No, it isn't. But I think it's an amazing thing to do for your community. I mean, it builds goodwill. Minnesota Rise, we won the Community Partner Award from them within the past couple years. They know we're somebody that wants to help the community, and we definitely are. Those people are going home to their families, and, it's good for your brand.
Yeah. I think in many ways, I know shops likely do business with customers many states away, sometimes in other countries, but it's still a regional business, right? So it's a lot of local, and people know your name and people see you out in the community. I imagine it feels kind of good to actually invest and make it a better place.
Yes. I'll tell you a funny story. I was at a fabric shop a few weeks ago while I was on my way to my cabin, and the woman working in there was just so helpful to me and so great. And I kept looking at her, and it was like, I know this person, but I can't think of how I know them. So when I went to check out, I said that exact thing. I know that I know you from somewhere. Do you work somewhere in the community? And she said, yes. I'm retired now, but I worked at Pine Technical and Community College for many years in, the scholarships or the working with students. And I said, oh, I'm Lori. And she said, you're Lori Tapani.
Whoa.
I know exactly who you are and the things that you've done for the community in terms of, working with the foundation and getting scholarships for students to be able to go. And I was like, oh my gosh, who knew?
Well, talk about goodwill, right?
Yes.
And that extends beyond the community you're talking about, right? I mean, it extends to possible customers, extends to everybody who's now thinking of you in a different light, right?
Yes. And I tell people that often that, I think being involved in things like that, especially workforce, is really beneficial because we can actually help our customers, because that is a challenge that we face and they also face it. Yeah. So if we, can have knowledge from work that we do in that area, we can actually help our customer on something beyond, making components.
Sure.
So let's go beyond your local community. You or your sister have visited DC, right? And in what context was the visit about, and how was your experience kind of visiting with leaders of the United States?
So we've visited Washington quite a few times. When we won that Workforce
Okay.
Development Award, we were there. Most recently, both Traci and I are members of the United States Chamber of Commerce
Okay.
Small Business Council.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a council, all kinds of businesses from across the country. The chamber has some local events, and I think we originally got involved with them because I was speaking on a panel at a U.S. Chamber event that was in Minneapolis. And it's just been a wonderful organization to be a part of, and part of that is advocating for small businesses.
Right.
So during the fall meeting, typically those that want to, and everybody that attends the meeting that's a member of the Small Business Council is encouraged to do that, to meet and to talk about business priorities. So they set up the meetings, you go to the Hill one day, and so that's been really rewarding. Beyond that, Traci, my sister, has been in Washington, D.C. much more than I have. So many, many organizations all about workforce. She's testified before Congress,
Oh,
before,
wow.
or a committee,
Wow.
and, things that require a large effort and a lot of preparation. So
So the workforce efforts, does it pay off for Wyoming Machine in terms of having success bringing new people in, or maybe you have retention efforts so good that it's not as big a concern?
we do have good retention, and what I think is not only are you working on workforce issues, giving your input on where you see it could be solutions that have to do with training and education, right? So one example is that Pine Technical had received a grant from the U.S. Department of Labor, and we were a partner to them, as were other manufacturers. And as a part of that, we got an ITV system in our company. And this was about 15 years ago, where a curriculum got developed and we were able to literally train people. So, back to the original question, do we see results from this? We definitely do, and get involved in initiatives like that one that allowed us to bring in less skilled people, to have them, get trained. And as a result of this work, we also do a lot with hiring students. And we're flexible. That's one of the keys that I think to bring people on. We actually have a young woman that's at Pine Technical right now in their welding program. She works full time, and we work with her every semester depending on what her classes are. So she works 40 hours, but what 40 hours it is changes from semester to semester.
Sure.
She's getting a wonderful opportunity to work in the field. We just got the handheld laser welding. So she's just welding away in that booth and loving it. It's giving her an opportunity to, do a type of welding that she's not going to do at technical school, which is great. So there's been many examples like that it's allowed us to get people in the door and keep them.
How many employees do you have now?
Right now we have about 45.
Okay.
In the industry, you hear a lot of people talk about how important it is to grow. Why has it been important to keep Wyoming Machine a small business over 50 plus years?
One of the things that I think about our small business is we haven't been the kind of company that we see, in town. There are companies that, have a workload, just hire in the masses of people, and then as soon as it's gone, there's a layoff. Okay, we're, north of St. Paul, 30 miles. We employ people that live even further north that just like not having to fully go into the city.
Mm-hmm.
And, we care about them. We don't want to have our brand, our reputation be as a company that just hires people. As soon as you don't need them, you let them go.
Right.
And keep hiring, and we've had people come and go from our company where they've gone someplace else, and then they get laid off, and then they come back. And so I think it helps if we're all trying to attract, develop, and retain great people. You don't want to have a reputation that
Right.
your place is a dangerous
Look,
place.
I don't understand how people can like talk about culture and go through riffs, right? I don't care how comfortable the person is, they're going to start looking over their back, like wondering, whether,
next?
it's a commitment that I see in a lot of shops. And I think it's kind of the same thought process, if not the exact one.
Yes. And I think, over time, one of the things we've learned, it's a roller coaster, right? I mean, business goes up and business goes down. You have, some of your customers could be really busy at the same time, others are down. And just, continuing to work with our team, adding technology that makes sense, that allows us to grow without necessarily having to add, headcount for every single growth spurt that you have. And the other thing that has turned out to be really beneficial for the team that works at Wyoming Machine is there's variability. That high mix, lower volume is great. And people also have the opportunity to move around
Yeah.
a little bit. They don't just have to do the exact same
Right.
machine at all times. And so it's given us flexibility, which we need, that in turn allows us to kind of have our arms around our team and not just hiring and letting go.
So the comment was made, I believe earlier today, is like it's all a tech. Everyone's in the technology business in the metal fabrication world now. As a small business, how do you view that situation? What are you doing to try to keep up with technology while also keeping your eye on your customers' needs, your people's needs? I mean, how do you balance all that in terms of your investments and the technology that you choose to buy?
I think, we're constantly in the world looking. We're going to go to Fab Tech. We're going to meet people here and knowing what kinds of technologies are coming out. And there's technologies that you can apply to your existing business, right? The existing mix you have. And just, it can be game changing in a number of ways, both for your customers and for your team. So if I think about in our business, adding, automatic tool changer press brake, right? The tool library is in it. It can do any, setup in 3 minutes or less. It's ergonomic. People aren't, having to go over to a rack and get the tooling and do all of that. So that's great. It's well lit. The foot pedal moves. There's beautiful graphics on the controller that people that are less experienced can operate it. So, that's how we look at it for, investments that we could make with our current mix of business in mind. Like we could look at it and say, this is going to be so great for everybody we're currently working with. And then, we would also look forward. We just got the handheld laser welder last fall. That's going to be an absolute game changer. I mean, to be able to have somebody who's relatively new to welding be able to do a beautiful TIG weld. It's not easy to find very well qualified TIG welders. So that's great. And again, that's great for team members too, to add that type of technology that they get to learn.
For a relatively low cost.
Yes.
$60,000 to $80,000.
Yes.
You're looking at something that can do amazing welds super fast. I mean, another business represented here said, that's a lower cost piece of tech that has changed the way we quote. It's changed the kinds of jobs that we quote, because now we have this capability we can offer our customers. Has it been the same?
Yes, it absolutely.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and we're still relatively new to it. And as everybody knows, there's some slower adapters to it, but right now we have it as a standalone booth, and people have been trained, and anybody that would like to use it can.
That's
so.
cool. That's very cool.
So being a finance person, what have been some of the challenges to running a job shop?
I would say just balancing the investments and equipment with your forecast of, deciding when you're going to add technology and how much technology. I think that sometimes things have happened. If you think of the late 90s when we had the .com, right? We had the burst. And, a big player came, was in town in Minneapolis, St. Paul area. We became a supplier to them in August, and I think we did $1 million with them between August and December. But just as quickly as they came, they went away. And then I think another thing that I've been working on is just customers that have a variety of kind of segments of business that we do with them. We're a strategic supplier. Some of their business is regular repeat purchase orders that come in, we're making them, or possibly they're on a Kanban program. And then there's, giant projects that they get, like a certain program. So they don't always have the order, but when they have it, we have it. And it's just trying to learn how to work that into production and think about it from a financial perspective in terms of adding team members and how we ebb and flow with that.
Right. What is the easiest answer to that? Just extra hours?
Extra hours. Sometimes we will hire temporary people to do some of the jobs that they're qualified to do. But it's not easy.
Right.
And, and then when you look at the end of the year and, you could have huge swings in what your top line revenue is, but
that's literally why that customer, enjoys doing business with you though, right?
Yes. So we work it out. And I will say one of the things in this customer is we just have really good relationships. One of the things I love is we are major communicators. We over communicate, if anything, integrity wise. And I'm only saying this because people share it with us, is that, when we tell them something,
right,
they believe it.
Because you do it.
Because we do it. Or at least, we're going to communicate if we can't meet a date or do something like that. Right. But when they send communications to us, hello, Wyoming team, we are part of their team.
Wow.
We're like an extension, and that's really a great way to work with someone.
I would imagine forecasting in a job shop environment is difficult. Do you have a little bit of success because you have these long-term relationships?
Yes and no. So things can change rapidly. So, with one of the customers where they have a lot of project-based work, we could go through 3 years and it might not be the same months of the year, but we kind of know we're going to build X number of these each year. And you can kind of plan for that, but it may or may not come through. I feel really confident when I think about the finance part of it, like on the expense side. Our forecasting is very accurate.
Yeah.
We really kind of know as a percentage of sales what supplies are going to be and, people in the office, because we're not drastically hiring and then letting people go.
Do you feel like that's because you're a detail-oriented person?
I don't know. I love spreadsheets as much as the next accountant does.
I can't wait to see that bumper sticker on your car.
It's very wide.
I was about to say, it's a lot of letters.
Yes. I am an artist. So like my real life, I'm a painter, but I was good at math. So I went into accounting, and Trace, my sister, often says, your spreadsheets are so much better when you have art and color in your life. So that was a compliment.
Well, the other thing I was curious about is when you talk about your customer mix, you were talking about aerospace, and what are some of the markets right now that you're perhaps more excited about than others? Is there any markets that you're serving that you think, I wish it would get better, or we're very excited about that over there? Would you care to share any of that?
Just when I think about it, within a customer, we could have a customer, but they have many divisions.
Oh, okay.
So we have customer A. They could be in, aerospace and defense. They could be in industrial equipment.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of variety even within the customer.
Sure.
I think what we're noticing right now is some surprise. I don't know how to describe it, where customers would think that they're going to be slow with a certain type of a product based on where they were selling it to. And then suddenly they're like, wow, we have great demand for this. So I think in the market right now, there's just some uneasiness or unpredictability in the way of a forecast
Right.
to know what's going to be a success. And it could be with certain things, supply chain is impacting it.
Right.
They're building a product and then they suddenly realize there's long lead times on some of their supplies or components that go into something. And so they switch gears. So we're seeing a lot of that where we're working closely with customers. Perhaps they have something on order that is due, at the beginning of March, and they suddenly realize, oh, that thing we have on order that's due in May, we want that
Right.
Wow.
sooner.
I'm going to ask this because you brought up like the web bust. As you look at metal fabricating on a macro level, like in the U.S., maybe in North America, what do you make of this whole data center thing? I hear crazy stories about just people like we need it yesterday type stuff, which is usually used to be just a joke in metal fab, but these guys literally mean it though.
Yes, and it's funny that you're asking this. I was just talking. I was talking with Trace about it before I left to come here. But when you think about it, I've met people through the Fabricator,
Right.
and they're in that world, and they're just saying there's no end in sight for them. They've got a 10-year deal, and
Whoa.
the only question is like, how fast can you get it, or
Right.
how much can you expand? And
Wow.
we're having some customers that are in that realm. We haven't had anybody say they needed the parts tomorrow
Right.
yet.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're just looking at it and being I'm not a pessimist. I'm really an optimist,
Right.
but I'm just a really smart optimist
Yeah.
that's kind of grounded a little bit
Yeah.
in terms of a segment that is so explosive and so new. And
Yeah.
So I asked that question because I was anticipating that type of feedback where I've had, particularly here at the annual meeting, where some people have reserved that they kind of haven't jumped full in, and their customers in that space want them to.
yes,
And it's having lived through the downturn, and I think those memories are quite clear, and they just don't want to get in the same situation. It's interesting to see the impact that segment of the economy is having on the metal fabs sector, but not to the standpoint where it's affecting everyone.
yes.
And maybe it's just related to specialty of the shop, or even not even having to do with a willingness to be a part of it. It's the first time I've seen this level of impact on the demand side instead of the supply side for business where technology comes from the vendors and software development, and then they're able to couple that with the expertise of people who are not traditional metal fab. But this whole thing is just out of, I won't say left field, but I don't know, data centers, AI. I mean, we're having a lot of discussion of it here, and it's kind of hard to wrap your head around all of it.
Well, I was talking with one large fabricator here. He said 2 years ago, data center work was 1% of their business. Now it's 25% at the end of this year. So in 24 months, it's gone from virtually nothing to a quarter of their revenue.
Right.
Yeah. And so you're hearing the same things from your customers?
Absolutely. Or other fabricators in the market. I'm hearing that. So, and I think that anyone that has been around long enough to see the .com and the, we all, as companies that employ people in our community, business goes up and business goes down, and, our revenue might stay the same, but maybe one of our customers is really, really busy and others are really down. And, you sometimes get in a situation where you have someone be a higher percentage than you would want. And after the .com bust, I will say we are very dedicated to percentage of how many customers it takes to make up
Right.
80% of our business. So
Well, if anything, it keeps the shop floor interesting.
exactly. definitely does.
Well, and I suppose it keeps helps you sleep a bit better at night if you're diversifying like that, right?
Yes.
In terms of the next, say, 24 to 36 months, as you look out at the business that you're anticipating doing, what are some technologies that you're perhaps thinking about investing in? You talked about the laser welding. Is there anything else that intrigues you since the last FabTech, for instance?
The laser welding is definitely, a great addition, and I could see us expanding in that direction.
Okay.
In forming, new technologies related to machines that have automated tool changers would also be great for us. And then I think, just today at the session, just thinking about, AI and how that could improve and exponentially, help us do things that we don't have time to do today, as far as data and knowing a direction that we should be going.
Have you played with that at all?
Yes. And I actually have a friend in manufacturing that's an operations specialist who went deep into AI, and she's my best friend. She gives me all the tips with it. So
were y'all friends before you entered manufacturing, or is this a friendship that's
this
evolved
was
since
a
you've
friendship that evolved. So
Okay, all right.
she reached out to me on LinkedIn
Oh, okay.
and said, I hope you don't think I'm creepy, but I've been following you, and I'd really like to have coffee with you or lunch. And, we just became really, really great friends, and she's run a variety of businesses. And,
oh, wow.
And
It's a valuable friendship.
Yeah, a really great friendship. Really, really great. A multifaceted great friendship. But she is very well versed in AI, as far as, platforms that are great for,
Right.
Doing your research, platforms that are great to take the research and make content. And so, yeah, we're dipping into it, definitely using it a lot for, writing certain things in quality, doing deep dives in quality, looking at
Wow.
contract reviews.
Has it helped you with documentation development of
it's-
for the shop floor quality
It's
stuff?
amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
No, I can imagine that. The whole thing about putting process down on paper. I mean, we're dopey editors working with words, and I can't imagine having to put down actual manufacturing process. It just overwhelms me in terms of tedious. Being so tedious about it.
Well,
our
and
eyes
you,
glaze over.
but you're involved in aerospace, so this stuff's mandatory, right?
Yes. And, one of the things that Traci especially noticed when we did our research audit, everyone was getting audited last fall. But, in advance of that, we could take our ISO procedures and work instructions, that were very wordy and just your eyes would glaze over if you had to read it.
Yeah, I'm
But,
sure they would.
feeding that into AI and just saying, I'd like a simplified, clear version of this procedure, with infographics and just
Wow.
maybe it's not going to be perfect the
Yeah.
first time out the gate, but it's really helpful, especially
Yeah.
for small businesses. And then as long as you make sure that you're, mindful of not letting your data, protecting your data. So
So-
we have Copilot and we have the licenses, so our data cannot escape.
Well, yeah, right. So, there's so much to learn about that space. And I sat through a session here at the FMA annual meeting about using the first party data that you have to narrow down customer targets. And it's a powerful possibility of the future.
Definitely. And I was at that session as well. And just when he broke down, people that buy this,
Right.
like pets, they do this, they do that. And
They listen to Ted Nugent. And
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
No,
Well, I think, that's it reinforces that, what we're experiencing now with AI is just the beginning. And it'll be a while before people understand how to kind of use the tools and what tools to use for their own projects or tasks. But it'll get there.
it's definitely going to get there. I was at a session with our IT cyber company, and one of their executives in sales was giving an example that their leadership team had asked him to do a presentation in 48 hours that was, initiatives that he's put into place in the sales process. And they told him what he wanted to cover. He was somewhere in, North Dakota, 4 hours away from home. And he's like, how am I going to get this done? He said that he had the questions. He set up a Teams meeting with himself. The questions were on there. And as he drove home for 4 hours, he basically interviewed himself and recorded it on Teams, dumped it into AI, had it make a summary of the meeting that was recorded, and then took that summary and had it make a slide deck.
Yeah.
And he said, it wasn't perfect. It took him 90 minutes at the end. But even if we just dabble, we have to try these things, because I think of how many PowerPoint presentations I've created, and it would be worthwhile to at least try it.
I think the ultimate irony is that salespeople are being looked at as being some of the guinea pigs with a lot of this. And it couldn't be a more fitting guinea pig.
Speaking as someone who's always been red in the ledger, the thing that intrigues me about AI is how much longer is it going to be before people see real ROI gains across the board? Because a recent MIT study was published middle of last year. It said people are finding it hard to get that real ROI in their general operations, because it's been tested out on sales and marketing first, and they've had a hard time seeing those gains. But it's probably not going to be too much longer before people really figure it out.
Yes.
And you don't want to be one of the last ones on the bell curve, right?
Exactly. And when I think about the example of the ISO audit that we had last fall, and the ability to take procedures we had already written, so it's our content, and just improving it and simplifying it and making it easier for our team to use, that's definitely beneficial. But for us personally, we are still in the very beginning. I mean, I wouldn't even try to calculate ROI on it right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Where do you see, or where do you hope to see Wyoming Machine in the next 3 or 5 years?
I would love to see us continue growing. I mean, we don't want to grow explosively. And I would love to see us continue to diversify our workplace and to be able to add, a variety of people. We want to have younger people. We want to have people closer to retirement. We want to have men. We want to have women. We want to have people with differing abilities. So I think that's a real possibility for us. And
Is there a third generation entering the business?
Yes.
Who's
Traci's daughter, Maya, joined the company during the time of COVID. She was in London at King's College. So she was going to McAllister. She was went to King's College in London for a semester, came home, it's COVID. And, your job that you had in the city isn't, existing anymore. So she came and worked part-time and realized that she loved manufacturing.
Cool.
So Maya's got a degree. She's working full-time right now. She's in charge of our laser department.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. She is the one that took the fiber laser and learned it and knows everything about it. She does a mean tour to a very mean customer tour, because we had a new customer come in last week, and at the end of the tour around the whole shop, he's like, "What processes are our parts going through for cutting?" And he's like, "As long as Maya's doing them, I'm fine."
Oh, wow.
She does a great
Yeah,
tour.
doing
So
the family proud there.
yes, exactly. So she's back at the university doing a manufacturing certificate.
Oh, wow.
And she's loving it. So she is a very sharp and just a super hard worker. Our materials that we process in her department, she also manages them. And it has probably been 20 years since our material has been as organized and as accurate and wonderful.
So Aunt Lori sounds happy.
I'm happy.
Is that a great example of like somebody who finds a path, a career that maybe didn't realize, like it? You're just talking about individual pieces that they don't look like they fit, but they end up working out well.
Yes. And I think with FMA, when you think about, attracting people and, you know, developing them and engaging them in manufacturing. There's so many young people that have no idea
Right.
of the great jobs that we have. You know, when I'm talking to students, I always tell them, like, even accounting is more exciting in manufacturing.
Wow. How so?
It just associating the costs with individual products. You know, if you think as opposed to a service business, when you make things,
Right.
it's, you know, it's very interesting.
Well, I mean, people like Maya are probably the perfect spokespeople, right?
Yes.
Because, you know, she's in it, but she's now tasted the quality of the environment and how fun it can be.
Yes.
And then, you know, she just unbidden really kind of fell in love with it, right? So
Absolutely. So bringing her, if we're going to go to a local school and talk about careers in manufacturing, we always try to bring somebody like Maya. And we have others. We have another young woman that is in the welding program at Pine Tech, and she's amazing too.
yeah.
You know, students would much rather and feel more comfortable asking Maya questions about careers
The
in
last
manufacturing
thing
than me.
manufacturing needs is a bunch of 50-year-olds talking about how cool it is.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
When it comes to running a business, just period in this field, what are some of the most important things that have kept you grounded? What do you feel like are the most important things for a small business owner in the fabrication space to do? What are the most important things to abide by?
I think, you know, really paying close attention and caring about your team that you have, right? We're here to, you know, work with our customers and be an amazing extension of their team, and to use, you know, all of the strengths we have, experiences that we've had to help them. I would say, you know, as Traci and I learned early on, you know, you have to stay grounded in who you are and remember that we're not here to be cookie cutouts of somebody else that we saw that had a fab shop, but we're here to just, you know, take everything that we've got, you know, within us and bring it to the game.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. And, you know, just remember that you are an integral part of whatever community you're in. And you really make a difference for people.
It's awesome.
With your work with like small business groups and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and now that you have like a third generation coming into a family-owned business, do you talk to a lot of small businesses that have succession plan questions? Do they reach out to you? You seem like a very approachable person.
You know, they have, you know, over time. There was a lot of conversations when we had our succession from our father to us. And, you know, people were very curious. I didn't add this earlier in the podcast, but the most fascinating part about it is we came on and we had a pact between the three of us that, you know, we weren't going to be the kind of organization where, you know, if they went to him and they didn't like the answer he gave, they could come to
Right.
me. So we didn't do that. And I think the really funny thing is we only worked with our dad for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
And he just gradually stopped coming to work. And as an entrepreneur was a really amazing guy that just got super serious about being a grandpa. He took up underwater photography and did probably 500 dives in Belize.
Wow.
And he never asked us anything about the company. And after a couple of years of him being on, we were like, geez, we should talk to Dad. I hope, I don't want to hurt his feelings, but I wonder if he's ever coming back to work, right? And he said no. And he said, I'm retired.
But look at these great pictures.
Yeah, look at these great pictures. And we said, do you want to have a retirement party? And he said, absolutely not. But,
Really?
you know, he's gone on to do great things. In fact, this past June, we went on a 5,000-mile motorcycle trip. Both of my sisters, 2 of my nieces, and my parents. And we went all the way to Yellowstone, Idaho, Washington,
Wow.
Montana. It was the best. And every place we went is this pack of all women and one old man. People were like, what is this? We're like, we're a family.
You guys win the coolest family award. I think that's really awesome.
But thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for
It's been
having
fun.
me.
It was nice catching up. I mean, obviously, I don't know if we've had this in-depth of a conversation since you've been a part of FMA and I've been a part of FMA. So
No, and it's been a while. I was at the Women in Manufacturing lunch, and I had to think back. I think I would have gone to one of the very first. I've been coming to this annual meeting
right,
since it existed.
yeah, the numbers are much more intimate.
Yes.
What is some of the value that you get out of coming to this every single year?
I love coming to the annual meeting, and I will be here every year unless something amazing is happening. Like last year, I didn't go to the annual meeting because I became a grandma.
Oh wow!
And so that was great. But someone asked me what I love about it. I think that the FMA has done a great job of really elevating the content and paying attention to the membership and bringing people into the fold. I feel like the content keeps getting better and better. My favorite part is the people. The people that come to this are genuine, lifelong learners, right? They are salt of the earth people. And I encourage new people that I meet when I come here to join a council or do something because you will make friends. I have people all over the country as a result of FMA that I would feel completely comfortable to call them.
Yeah.
You know, if I have a question and I know, a certain person is in a market segment that I'm entering, and everybody helps everybody. I've been on, small group, the sheet metal user
Right.
groups. And even after they disband, I have one friend that we have a virtual meeting quarterly
Oh wow!
that we were in a Peace Mug group together.
Mhm.
So the people are great. The content is great. And, the ability of the team to kind of keep the content current.
Right.
There's been painful times. I'm going to tell you, 12, 14 years ago, social media or marketing,
Yeah.
it was completely something that fabricators didn't think they
Right.
needed to do. So,
Well, I think just to drive it home is that some of those questions you mentioned, like market standard and social media social media marketing related to metal fabricating, those aren't necessarily the type questions even Chat GPT is going to give you the correct answer to as of this moment. So the
Absolutely.
ability to kind of touch base with someone that has that level of expertise in your arena has to be a plus.
yes, it's been wonderful.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much again. If you have any questions, comments, criticisms, send them to podcast@fmamfg.org. Almost
You
forgot
almost flubbed it.
it. I was on such a good streak. We thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Lincoln. Thank you, Lori. Gareth, you did okay.
Thank you.
See you next time. Thanks.
The Fabricator Podcast is a production of the Fabricators and Manufacturers Association. The show is hosted by Dan Davis and the team at FMA Communications. The podcast is produced by Gareth Slager, recorded by Griffin Hammond, and edited by Dana Weicker. Additional support provided by Andy Flando, Elizabeth Gavin, Mike Owens, Billy Culpa, Pat Simon, Sarah Spring, and Brandon Geyer. If you like this podcast, check out the FMA Podcast Network. Thank you for listening.